My beloved brothers and sisters, today I want to share something very important, something that many of us struggle with silently, yet it affects our emotional health, our time, and even our relationship with Allah. You see, there's a common mistake we often make in the name of kindness. We make ourselves too available for people. Every call we answer, every request we fulfill, every complaint we listen to, even when our own heart is tired, even when our obligations are waiting, even when we haven't had a moment to reconnect with our Creator. Let me remind you, Islam teaches us balance. Yes, be kind. Yes, help people. Yes, serve your family and community. But never at the cost of your peace, your self-respect, or your relationship with Allah. Your time is an amana, a trust from Allah, and you will be questioned about it. Sometimes, the best way to help people is not to always be there. Why? Because when you constantly make yourself available, some people begin to take you for granted. They forget your value. They expect you to always say yes, even when your soul is crying no, and in that process you lose yourself. Today, let us understand how being too available can silently destroy our energy, our focus, and even our Iman, and how we can set healthy boundaries without guilt, for the sake of Allah. Your time is one of the greatest blessings that Allah has given you. It is not something that can be regained once it is gone. Every second that passes will never return. And yet, many of us treat our time as if it is unlimited, freely giving it away to anyone who demands it. Whether they value it or not, we say yes to everything, pick up every call, respond to every message immediately, and run after people as though we were created just to serve their needs, even at the cost of our own well-being. But Islam teaches us that time is an amana, a trust, and like all trusts, it must be used wisely, with purpose and with accountability. When you give your time away to everyone who asks for it, without thought or boundaries, you're not being generous. You're being careless with a gift from Allah. Imagine someone giving you a treasure, and you simply hand it out to strangers in the street without checking who they are, or what they'll do with it. That's what it looks like when we let people consume our time for things that don't bring benefit, neither in this world nor the next. And the saddest part is, we often do this out of fear. Fear of disappointing others, fear of being misunderstood, fear of being called selfish. But you must realize saying no to people sometimes is actually saying yes to your priorities, your peace, your purpose, and your connection with Allah. You were not created to be constantly busy for the sake of other people's comfort. You were created to worship Allah, to build yourself, and to contribute to the world in meaningful ways. If your day is filled only with doing what others demand from you, and not what your soul needs, not what your family deserves, not what your faith requires, then you've lost control over your own life. That's not sacrifice, that's neglect. And Allah will not ask you why you didn't please everyone around you, but He will ask what you did with the time He gave you. Being too available also drains your energy. Every interaction takes something from you, even small ones. And when you stretch yourself too thin, you end up giving people a tired, irritated, and unfocused version of yourself. That doesn't serve anyone. You need time to recharge, to reflect, to reconnect with Allah. The Prophet Muhammad would take moments of solitude to worship, to contemplate. He didn't make himself available 24/7, even though he was the best of mankind. So who are we to think we must answer every knock on the door, every beep on the phone, every request that comes our way? There's nothing wrong with helping others. In fact, Islam encourages it, but within limits. You help when it doesn't harm your own obligations. You serve when it aligns with what's right and reasonable. You give, but not to the point that you are left empty. Your time is your life. Spend it with purpose. Spend it on things that matter, and don't be afraid to protect it from people who misuse it. Because on the day of judgment you won't be able to say, I was too busy helping people. You'll be asked, what did you do with the life we gave you? So, stop thinking that being always available makes you good. Sometimes it just makes you lost. And Allah never asked you to lose yourself for others. He asked you to find yourself through Him. And that begins with valuing your time, because time is not just minutes and hours, it's your journey back to Allah. Treat it like the gift it truly is. When you make yourself constantly available to everyone, something subtle but dangerous begins to happen. People start to take you for granted. At first they appreciate your presence, your willingness, your kindness. They are thankful that you're always there to pick up the phone, respond to the message, show up when they need something. But over time that appreciation fades. Your availability becomes an expectation. And once it becomes expected, it's no longer valued. People naturally begin to assume you'll say yes. They assume you'll drop everything just to accommodate them. They stop thinking about your time, your needs, your personal limits. And the moment you hesitate or say no, they act surprised, disappointed, or even upset. Not because you've done something wrong, but because they've become used to taking you for granted. This is one of the most painful realizations, when you finally understand that some people didn't truly value you. They just valued what they were able to get from you. And the truth is, you taught them how to treat you. By being constantly available, you trained them to believe that your time wasn't valuable, that your boundaries didn't exist, that your world revolved around theirs. You made it too easy, you gave too much access, and now they no longer see it as generosity. They see it as your role. You see, respect and value often come when there is limitation. Even the most precious things in life are valued because they are rare or limited. Water in the desert is valued more than gold. A few sincere words can carry more weight than 100 meaningless compliments. And likewise, your presence will only be truly respected when people understand that it is not always available on demand. It's not pride or arrogance to limit your availability. It's wisdom. Because when you are always accessible, people stop asking themselves, is this important enough to bring to them? They stop filtering what they need from what they want. And so you end up overwhelmed, drained, and sometimes even resentful. Not because of what you gave, but because of how it was received with entitlement instead of gratitude. And this happens in all types of relationships, friendships, family, work. The one who is always there becomes the one who is always expected to be there. The one who sacrifices becomes the one who is silently used. And in that cycle, your kindness gets mistaken for weakness. That's the tragedy of being too available. Not only are you taken for granted, but sometimes you even start to forget your own worth. Islam teaches us to help, to support one another, to be generous, but never to the point that we lose our dignity or identity. Even the Prophet Muhammad set boundaries. He chose when to speak, when to rest, when to be with people, and when to retreat into solitude. He understood that availability must be managed wisely. He was the most generous of people, but never in a way that allowed others to take advantage of him. So you must learn to protect your energy, your time, and your value. Be kind but firm, be helpful but with limits. Let your availability be meaningful, not automatic. Let people appreciate you when you show up, not assume you always will. Because the more you protect your value, the more others will begin to respect it too. And those who truly care for you will understand your need to step back, recharge, and focus on your own life. They won't guilt you for it. Being taken for granted is not just someone else's fault. Sometimes it's the result of our own patterns. And the only way to break it is to realize that your time and presence are valuable, and to stop offering them freely to those who have stopped appreciating them. There's a big difference between being kind and being a doormat. Kindness is a strength. It is a beautiful quality taught to us by the Prophet Muhammad, who was described as the most gentle, the most caring, and the most forgiving of people. But even with all his kindness, he never allowed others to walk over him, disrespect him, or take advantage of him. That's because kindness in Islam is balanced with dignity, boundaries, and self-respect. Many people confuse being kind with always saying yes, always giving in, always tolerating disrespect, and always being available, even at the cost of their own peace. But true kindness doesn't mean sacrificing your well-being or becoming a tool for others to use whenever they please. It doesn't mean that you must let people drain you emotionally, mentally, or physically, just so you can be seen as good. That's not kindness, that's self-abandonment. There are people who will keep asking from you as long as you keep giving. They don't consider whether you are tired, whether you have your own struggles, whether you're feeling overwhelmed. And if you never set limits, if you never say no, they'll assume you're okay with it. They won't pause to ask how you're coping, because your silence and constant availability have convinced them that you're always fine. But deep down you may be feeling frustrated, unappreciated, even hurt. That is the painful result of confusing kindness with submission. Islam never told you to be weak. It told you to be gentle. And there's a huge difference. Gentleness is intentional. It comes with wisdom. It knows when to give and when to step back. It knows when to help and when to let others take responsibility for their own lives. Even when Allah revealed the message to the Prophet, he said, "And if you had been rude or harsh in heart, they would have disbanded from around you." That shows the value of kindness, yes. But the same Prophet also said things firmly when he needed to. He walked away from situations when people crossed the line. He didn't allow his compassion to be abused. If someone disrespects you, drains you, or uses your goodness for their own gain, you are not required to remain quiet in the name of patience. You can still be a good person and say, "This is not okay." You can still have a soft heart and stand firm when someone tries to take advantage. Allah gave you dignity, and that dignity must be protected. When you give without boundaries, people stop appreciating your kindness and start expecting it. And expectations, when not met, turn into blame. You'll find yourself being questioned not for what you did wrong, but for simply not doing more, even when you've already done too much. Kindness doesn't mean burning yourself out to make others comfortable. It doesn't mean accepting mistreatment or sacrificing your emotional and spiritual health. It means doing good sincerely, for the sake of Allah, within limits that preserve your integrity. That's the kindness the Prophet taught us. balanced, wise, and full of mercy, but never weak. If people call you selfish for setting boundaries, let them talk. You are not on this earth to be everyone's solution. Your job is to be sincere, to be fair, and to guard your own soul as you journey toward Allah. Say yes when it's right, but also say no when it's necessary. And always remember, being kind is noble, but being a doormat is not Islam. Setting boundaries is not selfish. It is necessary. It is not a sign of arrogance, but a form of mercy to yourself and to those around you. Islam teaches us balance in everything, and that includes how we interact with people. The Prophet Muhammad was the most generous and the most loving of human beings, yet he had boundaries. He knew when to engage, when to withdraw, when to speak, and when to remain silent. He knew how to prioritize his time and protect his peace while still fulfilling his duties. This is the Sunnah. Living with intention and discipline, not just emotionally reacting to every situation or demand placed upon you. Many of us were raised to believe that always saying yes is a sign of goodness, that the more available we are to others, the better Muslims we are. But this mindset can easily lead to exhaustion, burnout, and emotional damage. Being constantly accessible, always giving, always saying eyes, and never allowing yourself space to breathe. This is not mercy, it's imbalance. And Islam warns against imbalance in every area of life, including our relationships. Boundaries are part of self-respect. They tell others how you wish to be treated. When you set limits, you're not pushing people away. You're protecting the energy and time Allah gave you. You're making sure that you are not being used, manipulated, or drained. You are acknowledging that you have responsibilities to yourself, your family, and your faith, and that you cannot serve everyone without consequence. Even the Prophet took time to be alone, to worship, to rest, and to reflect. If he, being the best of creation, needed space and limits, then surely we do too. Unfortunately, when you begin to set boundaries, not everyone will understand. Some people will be upset. They may call you distant or selfish, not because you've done anything wrong, but because they were benefiting from your lack of boundaries. They were used to the version of you that never said no. But you have to remind yourself, pleasing people at the cost of your well-being is not what Allah wants from you. You were not created to be emotionally available to everyone. You were created to worship Allah, live with Iman, and fulfill your responsibilities in a healthy, meaningful way. There's also a spiritual benefit to setting boundaries. It protects your focus. When you're constantly involved in other people's needs, dramas, and expectations, you often neglect your own connection with Allah. You may find yourself so busy responding to people that you delay your salah, shorten your Quran time, or ignore your own emotional and spiritual needs. This is dangerous, because the further you drift from your inner peace, the easier it is to fall into anxiety, resentment, and burnout. Boundaries also teach others responsibility. When you're always available, people may become dependent on you in ways that are unhealthy. They don't grow. They don't learn how to manage on their own. But when you step back and give them space, you're giving them the opportunity to take control of their own lives. That too is a form of kindness, even if it's hard at first. So don't feel guilty for needing space. Don't apologize for protecting your time. Don't allow guilt or fear of judgment to stop you from doing what's right for your soul. You can love people and still say, I'm not available right now. You can care deeply and still choose rest, still choose silence, still choose your own peace. That is not unkindness. That is wisdom. And wisdom is one of the greatest gifts Allah can give a believer. Protecting your peace is not a luxury. It is a necessity. In a world that constantly pulls you in 100 directions, guarding your inner calm becomes an act of worship. And when your peace is protected, your connection with Allah becomes clearer, stronger, and more focused. Yet many people sacrifice their peace trying to please everyone around them. They become overly available, constantly accessible, and endlessly giving, until they feel completely drained, emotionally numb, and spiritually distant. This is not what Islam calls you to do. Allah created you with limits. Your body, your mind, your emotions, even your time, all have boundaries. When you ignore those limits in the name of being kind, helpful, or responsible, you eventually pay the price. You become tired in a way that rest can't fix. You begin to feel resentful, not because you don't care, but because you've been pouring from an empty cup for too long. That's why protecting your peace is not about being selfish. It's about being wise, and wisdom is a gift from Allah. When your mind is overwhelmed and your heart is unsettled, you struggle to focus in prayer. You open the Quran but your eyes skim the words without feeling. You make dua but feel disconnected. That's what happens when your peace is constantly disturbed. Whether it's by people demanding your time, relationships that drain you, or the pressure of always being on, the result is the same. Your soul becomes clouded, and your link with Allah becomes weaker. And no matter how many good deeds you try to do on the outside, if the inside is exhausted, it all begins to feel empty. Protecting your peace means being selective with who you give your energy to. Not everyone deserves access to you. Not every call needs to be answered. Not every argument needs your reaction. Not every favor needs your highs. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is step back, breathe, and turn to Allah instead of people. Let the world make its noise, but keep your heart silent. Let others rush, but keep your pace slow. Let people expect things from you, but only give what your soul can afford without collapsing. The Prophet Muhammad would withdraw at times. He would seek solitude in the cave of Hira before prophethood, and even after revelation began, he would take time for reflection, silence, and rest. He didn't run after people. He didn't make himself constantly available to every individual. He maintained his role as a guide without sacrificing his own spiritual well-being. That is the balance we are taught. Being there for others, yes, but not at the expense of our own peace and purpose. When you protect your peace, you protect your ability to hear the whispers of the Quran, and when you recite it, you protect your ability to make heartfelt dua in the last third of the night. You protect your ability to be fully present with your loved ones, to serve them with love, not with resentment. You give yourself the space to grow, not just emotionally, but spiritually. And you teach people a valuable lesson tool that your time and energy are sacred, that you are not available to be used, pressured, or guilted into things, that your calm is not up for negotiation, and the ones who truly care for you will understand that. They will respect the peace you protect, and some may even be inspired to do the same in their own lives. So remember, your peace is the gateway to your connection with Allah. Guard it, nurture it, and don't let anyone steal it in the name of expectation, urgency, or obligation, because when you live in peace you worship with presence, and when your heart is calm your soul rises. My beloved brothers and sisters, as we come to the end of this reminder, let us reflect sincerely on what we've heard. Life is short, your energy is limited, and your time is one of the most precious gifts Allah has given you. You are not created to please everyone, nor were you placed on this earth to be available at all times for the comfort of others. Your first responsibility is to Allah, then to your own soul, and then to the people around you. In that order, being too available can quietly destroy your peace, your purpose, and your sense of value. It often leads to being taken for granted, emotionally drained, and spiritually distracted. And yet, Islam does not ask you to carry the world on your shoulders. It teaches balance. Between service and rest, between giving and protecting, between community and solitude. Even the Prophet, who was sent as a mercy to all of creation, had moments of withdrawal, moments of silence, moments where he chose reflection over reaction. So don't let guilt make you a slave to people's expectations. Don't confuse kindness with overextension. And don't ever think that constantly being available makes you more righteous. Sometimes the most righteous thing you can do is pause, protect your peace, and reconnect with your Creator. Learn to say no with wisdom, set boundaries with calm, and remind yourself daily that your time, your energy, and your presence are valuable. Not just to others, but in the sight of Allah. You don't need to be everywhere for everyone. You just need to be sincere, intentional, and present where it truly matters. May Allah grant us the strength to live with balance, the wisdom to protect our peace, and the courage to honor our time. And may He never let us be among those who lose themselves trying to be everything for everyone, but instead make us among those who live for His pleasure and find true peace through Him. Ameen.